associate for like 10 years. And I realized I was really in a bad place physically, emotionally. I'm like, this is not sustainable. And I ended up finding Relief, which I still do. And I think a lot of people who start House Call kind of similarly, is like, oh, well, I'm getting this launched. I'm going to actually try to make some money and actually do some relief shifts.
Yeah.
And from there, I kind of found it's like, wow, it's so empowering to own my own business and to choose like where I work, when I want, when I work, my policies, who I work with, all that stuff.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode.
Hey, everyone. We have an awesome guest today. We have Dr. Julie Liu, who is a cat-friendly and fear-free freelancer, speaker, and general practice vet based in Austin. She has been a frequent contributor to Fear Free, serves on the Fear Free Speakers Bureau, volunteers on the AAFP Cat-Friendly Practice Committee, and acts as the vice president of the Relief Veterinary Medical Association. In late 2023, she started My Family Cat, a cat behavior house call practice, supporting the felines of the Austin area. In her free time, she enjoys backyard birding. I'm with you on that. Finding great food places, I know there's many in Austin, and spending time with her partner, Brian, and their 17-year-old cat, Huff. Welcome, Julie. I'm so glad to have you here. It's been a while that we've needed to have a conversation, so I'm excited to finally get it rolling. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So I'm going to start out with the question that I ask everyone in the beginning. What do you eat in the car on the way to your house calls? Well, usually I don't eat on the way, but definitely on the way back. I am majorly carb loading typically. So I know like some of your other guests are like, oh, I eat healthy things. It's like, no, I'm eating salty like carbs. So actually, and this is something I do driving home from my relief shifts too, is I really love those like peanut butter crackers, like where they're like orange and like you probably shouldn't look at the ingredients, but it's like they're so salty and like perfect. So yes, those like neon orange cheese cracker, they're a favorite. That's funny. Yeah, can't go wrong with neon orange snacks like Cheetos, like for example. Those are if it leaves a sting on your fingers. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I really like Cheetos. I'm more into the Flamin' Hot Lime Cheetos, which I discovered, which will totally cause some serious damage to your GI tract. Oh my God, like those will actually fuck you up. Ask me how I know. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I don't like the spicy. It's too spicy. They're addictive. I have to like make myself not buy them, but yeah, I love those. I like your style. This is going great. I love it. Okay, so I know you got started with your house call practice a little over 6 months ago. I remember you reached out about that. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started with house call practice and what your journey's been like and how's it going? Well, I think it's going well. I'm so glad I actually launched that venture, but I've done a lot of things in vet med. So I actually was an associate for like 10 years. And I realized I was really in a bad place physically, emotionally. I'm like, this is not sustainable. And I ended up finding Relief, which I still do. And I think a lot of people who start house call kind of similarly, is like, oh, well, I'm getting this launched. I'm going to actually try to make some money and actually do some relief shifts.
Yeah.
And from there, I kind of found it's like, wow, it's so empowering to own my own business and to choose like where I work, when I want, when I work, my policies, who I work with, all that stuff. But on top of that, I also do like freelance work and kind of got into multiple other little roles. But yeah, I think, for me, the idea for starting a cat behavior house call practice, it probably started like a little over a year ago. It's probably like a year, a few months ago, where I was sort of thinking about how, well, I love cats and I definitely feel
Mhm.
like, I just don't feel like they get as much respect in the pet industry, but also in the vet industry. Like, I think honestly, I mean, they may not admit it out loud, but I do think most vet professionals are like dog people, and then they maybe also see cats. So, what are these cat parents supposed to do when they kind of come in and like nobody really gets them, so it's like if you are a cat person in vet med, I do think you're probably only one or two people in your whole clinic. And so, trying to find that sense of connection with the cat parent is like really I think it's really rewarding, but I feel like cat parents really weren't getting supported, not to mention obviously the cats themselves. So yeah, a little over a year ago, I just started thinking, gosh, I would really love to be able to support cats in some way. And I think behavior can be really challenging at the vet clinic, as you all know, because cats are not showing their normal behaviors. You can't see the environment. You get at least like half-hour appointments, which is not enough, and a lot of
Yeah.
times this 10-year behavior concern gets tacked on to the end of an annual where I had one like a few months ago where she was like their new client, double cat annual. And like, by the way, her cat's been peeing outside the litter box for 5 years. And it's like she needs it fixed right now. And it's like, So anyway, so I was sort of thinking about how I could help these cat parents. And yeah, I just sort of realized kind of bringing my interests and, realization, well, definitely want to keep owning my own business. And could I launch this? Because Austin is like not a very big city. We are very lucky to have a veterinary behaviorist here. There are a couple BTSs in behavior. I have a friend who's a LVT who does cat behavior house calls, and she was like really great and let me mentor her and like shadow her when I was getting my practice going. And then there's a behavior vet who's gone through residency who's also amazing. But, as far as people who are supporting cats and behavior, there really aren't that many. And so, anyway, so I really want to bring my general practice background, but also really feel like going to cats where they are and just being able to evaluate the environment, evaluate the medical records, see what's going on with them, watch them walk around, see how they're interacting. So it was kind of a scary idea. But I officially launched in November of last year, and I'm so glad I did because it's been so rewarding in weird ways that I hadn't really thought about. So, yeah, I love it. Well, I want to ask, how has it been rewarding in weird ways? What are the weird ways? Well, so weird ways I feel like, and you probably discovered this too, is I just feel like not only are the pets calmer and less stressed, but so are the clients. Like no one wants to be at the vet clinic. No one wants to be like waiting. They get mad if it's like 10 minutes to their appointment. They haven't been roomed yet. It's just like there's stuff going on. And it's just, I think then that stress level, it gets taken on as a emotional burden by like this, veterinary staff members who are providing them with this service, but then obviously also gets translated to the stress levels of the pet. So I think I've been really lucky. Like all my clients have been excellent and they have a range of the level of engagement they want as far as what they're wanting to do. And, there's some clients who are like really, really like on top of things and wanting to do like everything that I recommend. Other ones where it's like, oh, they like had me out and, hadn't really heard much back, after that initial consult. But yeah, I think just seeing like not only the cats in their natural environment, but the clients in their natural environment has really been great. I think, yeah, seeing the pets' interactions. So I had a recheck house call a couple of days ago where some cats with inter cat conflict and it's a 4-cat home. And one of the cats was like zooming around. She was like having zoomies, and I watched her, zoomie past. I don't know if that's a verb, but I watched her like zoom past the cat that she was having conflict with, and the cat's like ears flattened briefly, but then they went back to normal. I was like, oh wow, so that could have really gone really badly. So just like little stuff like that, there's just like no way you can convey that level of detail. assessing the environment. So just, yes, pictures are great, videos are great, but it's not like seeing it, and just being like, hey, what about putting some shelves here? What about doing these things? And I think, all that's been great. And then I think for me personally, because I only do cat behavior, so I don't do the only medical thing I do besides evaluating the records and making my recommendations is I do try to examine every patient and weigh them. If possible, I've been mostly successful. Some cats are a little too stressed. But, I think just really being able to focus on the cerebral aspect of it, if that makes sense, where I'm not having to like really poke any pets with needles or do things like that, which obviously they need for their physical health. But for me, as like a cat friendly and fear free vet, it is stressful for me sometimes. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of things I just didn't really think about until like I launched this. So that's beautiful. I love the feline only. Like, there's like a teeny tiny little niche within the house call niche, which is already teeny tiny, but it's like teeny tiny microscopic, like feline only and then feline only behavior niche. And I love that you guys are like taking back the Jackson Galaxy vibe. And it's like, I like a lot of Jackson. Some good tips. He's got some good tips. He's got some great stuff. I learned stuff from him. And I think it's amazing. And it makes me very happy to see veterinarians kind of, I don't know if like following that lead or stepping into that lead or just recognizing that cat behavior is like so much more than like what you said, like attack on 5 minute. There's no way. There's no way. It's all so environmentally oriented and interactive oriented, and the issue takes place in the home, so you gotta be in the home to see what's happening, including the natural habitat of the client and how the client is behaving in their own habitat and in response to the animals, and more than half the time, it's the clients that need a little bit of adjustment, right? Like how they're behaving or what they themselves are setting up as the environment for the cats, so I love this new paradigm that is unfolding and being led by people like you to really handle feline behavior properly because behavior is a very, very significant aspect of feline medicine. And it's the root of so many of their actual medical issues, all the urinary stuff and, even IBD, like the stress flaring up their gut issues. And, there's just so much that is beyond just like quote unquote behavior. The behavior under is the emotional experience that they're having, which then can and often translates into a physical experience as well. So I love that you called that out and are observing that. I think that's wonderful and well needed. And I think you're right that a lot of my clients as well, the feline ones especially, feel really uncomfortable at the clinic. They're just like, it's not enough time. My cat is stressed to the fucking moon. And like, there's just no way this is not stressful. And so, like, there's so much happier. I would say my practice is about 50-50, but my feline clients are the hardcore, like they're some of my best clients, I would say, because they really appreciate and know how helpful it is for their cats as opposed to going to the clinic. Of course, sometimes I send them into the clinic. Like there are times that we just don't have that option. But when we do, it's so much nicer to be at home. So thank you for highlighting that reality of the feline practitioner and the feline guardian and the cats themselves and things like that. So I wanted to go a little bit into the relief work that you mentioned. You're a big proponent for relief work and you're on a lot of different boards of all different things. Well, a volunteer capacity, but yeah. Nice. Nice. Can you tell me a little bit about how relief work and house call practice go together for you? So I always say, like, my favorite little saying is like that relief and house call are like pairing fine wine and chocolate, or like they seem like they're just like one is a jumping point to the other and vice versa. And they just like support each other so beautifully. And it's just like anyone who's gone into relief work and has their own business as such, I'm just like, just a matter of time before they start their house call practice. I'm here for it. Tell me a little bit about how those things kind of interplayed for you. Yeah, I think for me, I never thought that I would be self-employed. Like when I was in vet school, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to work at a small animal clinic. And I hadn't even, like, I never grew up with cats. So the feline aspect hadn't even like gotten on my radar yet. And so when I started doing relief work, it was just like mind blowing. It's just like, oh my God, I'm a business owner. And what does that mean? Like what, of course, there's some cons with running your business or challenges, I should say, but all these pros I didn't really think about. And so if you do end up owning your own mobile practice, kind of similarly, how you can sort of dictate a lot of your policies, et cetera, Like for example, I had done some like relief shifts with a corporate house call group. And one thing I didn't really understand was how they didn't take a deposit for the house call. And there were a couple instances where we, show up at the home and there were a no show. So it's just like, are you like secretly home and you're just hiding? Or did you completely forget about it despite the 5 million reminder tag? So I'm just like, wow, I do. So I just like really made me realize like you can actually dictate some of those policies with how you want your practice to be run. And I think like a lot of relief vets, speaking generally, is a lot of us are pretty independent minded. And so, sometimes to our detriment, I would say, but, so I think there's that aspect of it that I think also does translate into house call because I don't know if there's any stats on house call like vets and, how many owners have associates or, any of that. Do you know if there's any information? There are some studies, not on that specific thing that I know people are doing, but I would say I'm just from like anecdotal observation and playing in this community for years and years. I would say 90% of house call vets are solo, and very few go on to like lots of employees, lots of associates, and then branch out and or maybe franchise but like 90% are just like us independent to a detriment folks. Like you said, like enjoys playing solo, actually, with others in the sandbox, but enjoys mostly doing it ourselves. Yeah. Yeah, so the detriment to me, like one detriment is, sometimes you can feel a little isolated because you're doing relief, you're going to work in someone's practice. So yes, you are like talking with people and your coworkers, but they're your independent contractor kind of going in. Similar when you go to a house call, it's just like you and the client. And so it's like, who are your people if you're a relief, or a house call? Yeah. So I think that can be one thing that can be a little difficult. And that's actually just to briefly mention the Relief Veterinary Medical Association, but because a lot of us are so isolated, we did want to kind of bring together people from across the country and even the people who are board members who are like spread throughout the country. And it's just like, wow, it's just really nice to know other people or meet other people who share your particular experience. And that's like all the good stuff, of course, but it's also just like, oh, this is so annoying, or this, what do I do about this ethical conflict, or, whatever it is. I really love what you had to say about the solo nature of it. There's sort of solo vibes about relief work and house call practice, especially if you're in like the approximately 90% of house call vets who are doing this solo. And at the same time, none of us can do anything really alone. We need each other. We're herd animals in certain ways, right? And so I really relate to what you said and have found incredible support and collegiality and friendship in the house call vet groups. Like the conference, like people usually their feedback is like, I never felt so seen or I've never felt so understood as in this conference. And, like same with House Call Vet Academy retreats and our, monthly Zoom calls and things like that. So the community is a very, very big part of it. And I really appreciate what you said, that sort of like loneliness or sort of fear of loneliness or just like literally working alone at certain times. So I love that you brought that up. And also, you had shared some really sweet thoughts about the House Call Vet conference. You were there this past round. Do you happen to remember what you said? I was like really touched by it. Well, so I think for me, I'm still a very new house call vet. Like it's been less than a year since I've had my practice. Like I'm still like trying to, build my business. But yeah, I really enjoyed the networking aspect was really fun. But just I think just having CE content specific to house call. I don't remember the speakers' names exactly, so sorry about that. But some really good ones about humane euthanasia and kind of navigating that. I actually liked your talk about what to do when business is slow because I was like, well, business is always slow for now. So like maybe I can get some of these tips right now. And then because I have a cat behavior practice, there was a talk about cat behavior house calls, which I was like, this is great because there really aren't that many, as far as I know, like veterinarians who have just that like very specific niche. So, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're a rare breed. It's true. Yeah, I think Erin Dresner gave a really awesome talk on
Yes.
yeah, she
Feline
yes.
behavior.
She's wonderful. And Yeah, we'll have more of that at our next conference. And I love that you enjoyed my what to do in business is slow talk because my because you probably remember like my Zoom like froze and I had to log on and off and I was like, oh, almost on the verge of tears and I was like, oh God, this is terrible. So
Honestly, like, I have no memory of that, so I think it just goes to show you that when there's hiccups during a speaking engagement or whatever, like, 99% of the time, it's like the anxiety is, like, all in your head because no one has any memory of these things. I remember, like, I had to kick off a virtual conference and, like, my computer froze. The speaker's notes that I was supposed to do for the intro, like, I couldn't access them, and they still put me on, and I was like, "So, yeah,
thank you
this
for
thing's
saying
happened."
that. Thank you
Yeah.
for saying it was that kind of thing where I was like, oh shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, "Oh, shit," going on in my head, but I also, like, feel like a lot of people don't recall those things. They just remember the content, so
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Lau. I'm the founder of O3 Vets. One of the challenges of being a mobile veterinarian is that you have a more limited toolbox to draw from. At O3 Vets, we put a powerful tool into your toolbox by providing ozone therapy equipment designed specifically to help the mobile veterinarian treat those tough cases. Ozone works as a redox molecule to help decrease inflammation and improve cellular communication. This has an incredibly beneficial effect on a variety of conditions, as demonstrated through the hundreds of scientific studies available. If you would like to join thousands of veterinarians who've experienced the power of ozone therapy, you can visit o3vets.com or call us at 517-925-8148. If you mention this ad, you'll get access to our online training course with the purchase of your ozone equipment.
So I wanted to shift a little bit and talk about Austin. I've never been, but it is so on my to-do list to go to Austin. Like I've heard there's so much good music and good food and I know it's kind of an awesome spot for house call practice, I understand, because there's a really nice community of other house call vets who all kind of support each other and get along really well. And, it seems like a bunch of animal loving people in that area. What's your experience been like in Austin with your house call practice?
well, so I moved here in 2009 and, obviously at the time I wasn't doing house call, I was just an associate vet. But yeah, I think in Austin, traffic can be a challenge, and for me it's like, oh, well, 8 to 9 used to be pretty good. And like now that is also like horrible. So there's really like, no time in the morning when you can drive. But being a practice owner, you can kind of decide when to like book your appointments too. And so typically my earliest one, unless it's a client who's close to me, will be like 10 o'clock or something. Cause then I can just, have my like morning, get stuff ready and then not like kill myself in traffic. But yeah, I think, that Austin is full of pet lovers. And I do find that because it is such a very specific service that I offer that I think it's one of those things I was like worried that people wouldn't really see the value of something like that. But I do think that there are a lot of pet parents in Austin, not just like cat parents, but dog parents who are, kind of willing to invest in their pet. So, things like daycare and all the stuff that, comes along with having a dog or cat. And so, I only know like a few house call vets personally, kind of back to the, oh, we're like these little, we're not really that connected because we don't really work with them directly. But even prior to starting my practice, I actually ended up reaching out to some house call vets who I just kind of had met and were friendly with. One was an acupuncture vet who had come to my house years ago and did laser acupuncture on my previous cat, which really made a big difference. One is like a vet with her technician who lives in Utah part time and then in Austin part time. But her tech actually does mobile tech work where she does like Doppler blood pressure and does some blood draws and stuff. I'm just like, oh my God, Doppler blood pressure for cats in their home. It's like you can actually get a real blood pressure reading and not just like 200 or 180. And you're like, is that 180 real? And I don't know.
Yes.
So I like was picking their brains for advice. And so, yeah, those are the two house call vets who I was friendly with prior. But it does seem like there is a big market here potentially for house call.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome to hear about. Are you into music at all?
I used to be, this is horrible, but like I really like being in bed early. Like if I could be in bed by 9:30, I'm like, yes. Because I usually get up early. Like my cat wants to get up at 6:30. So it's like, and I'm kind of an early riser. But I actually used to be in a band a long time ago before I'm moving to Austin. Yeah.
What did you play, or were you singing? Or?
So I played drums and sang backup, and it was me and my friend from college. So this is before going to vet school, but I was sort of like aimless for a while. I wasn't like one of those people who knew they wanted to be a vet when they were like age 5, you know? I knew I always liked animals, but so I kind of was like aimless for a little bit. And so I ended up being in a band. It was like a indie rock band with 2 friends named Bill and Ted.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And it was just like, it was like in my 20s, you know, it was just a really, really fun period because I felt like we just was being creative and not irresponsible, but like, you know, I felt like we didn't have to be quite responsible yet. So,
I love that.
yes. So I
That's so
kind of
cool.
like, yeah, stopped. I don't really go out to see music, but there is a lot of music here. So you
Mhm.
should come visit.
I would love to. I would love to. I always laugh about this. Like people in house call community are always like one of the common questions that people get when they ask when they start their house call practices is regarding like what address to put publicly because they're afraid that people will show up at their homes and their clients will be knocking at their door asking for things. And I'm like, you guys don't realize what's much more likely to happen is me showing up at your door. Me being a creeper and being like, up here, can I stay the night?
Oh, does that happen?
No, but I fantasize about it a lot and being like, these people are so cool. I want to hang out with them. Like, I'm going
Oh,
to show up at your place in Austin and like, I'm going to
yeah,
force you to
definitely.
like check out music with me and we're going to stay out past 9. It's going to be great.
Well, I will do 9:30. 9 to
Okay.
9:30 is I'm okay
Okay.
with 9 to 9:30.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, if you come, yeah, definitely let me know because there are a lot of really cool things. There's a really huge bat population under a major bridge leading into downtown. So one of my favorite things is to like stand on the bridge and then you can watch the bats fly out after sunset, which is really, really cool. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Is there a rabies endemic there? Like when I think bats, I think rabies immediately.
I know. Whenever it happens, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can get aerosolized rabies by standing right here. Not that I know about, although there are a lot of pets that aren't up to date on rabies. Cats, I found.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. Can you tell me a little bit, speaking of things that fly, can you tell me a little bit about your backyard birding? Like, I love birding too. Like, tell me about.
Well, yeah, actually, as you were talking, so I normally have hummingbird feeders out and I just set them out yesterday because my partner Brian, he like is really into gardening, whereas I'm, you know, not. So I'm like, it's too much work. But so he's had some like native stuff that's been flowering. So I've been really lazy about my feeders. But I put my feeders out just yesterday. And right now, while we're talking, I can see a hummingbird feeding at the feeder. Actually, you know, when I was in vet school, my close friend Seth, who was in my class, like we used to like cram together, you know, before tests and all of that. But we also used to go birding together. So that was one of our favorite like stress reduction things because we both ended up we didn't go straight to vet school from college. So we had like worked and then we went back later. And so I went to school in St. Paul. And so it's really, really beautiful. You know, Twin Cities are so beautiful. And so there's really great birding. And so we would go and I'm like not that good at birding. Like I'm not like, oh, that's a whatever. You know, I do know some birds, but I think like the backyard birding aspect is really nice because it helps if I'm like procrastinating at home, which, you know, happens not infrequently. I'll like walk over and be like, oh, I wonder what's happening in the backyard, you know? And so, you know, have like bird baths up and Brian got me this Bird Buddy, which have you heard of those before?
No, it's a bird buddy.
So a Bird Buddy is a motion activated camera that will take pictures and record video and it's combined with a feeder. So you basically have a feeder set up and these different birds can kind of come and then it captures them. And it's very entertaining. Yeah.
That's so cool. I want one of those. That's so cute.
Yeah, I think it is a price investment, but you know,
Yeah.
seeing those birds up close and it also records sound too. So you can hear these very quiet little bird sounds that you wouldn't necessarily hear unless you were like right there. Yeah, it's really cute.
That's adorable. Do you have a favorite bird?
So this might seem weird, but I really like vultures.
Okay.
So yeah, I remember I grew up in the Midwest, and so there were always like turkey vultures that you would just see like flying, and they just looked really relaxed. And here, there's a lot of like black vultures, and so I really like watching them. And then I really love wrens. So we have a wren house in the front yard and the backyard, and we've had multiple wrens come and like nest, and it's like really cute to watch them, you know, coming and like when they actually fledge, it's really cute.
That's amazing. Speaking of turkey vultures, Jason, my husband and I, we drove up the coast and spent a little bit of time at the ocean, and we saw this crazy thing. We saw like a washed up seal carcass, basically just like ribs and things like that, and all of these turkey vultures all around
Oh
it.
my
It was like,
God.
I got video footage. I was like, this is like National Geographic. It's also like kind of gross and sad, but also really like, oh my God, this is nature
Yeah.
right here, right here. So it's I mean, they're fascinating birds. They're really fascinating, those turkey vultures.
I think they're really cute too.
Cute, yeah, that far, but I respect that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of more like an on the owl side of things, like I
Oh, I like
and
owls.
owls and like
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
love it. Thanks for hearing me on the bird parrot side of things, and I love it. So before we wrap up, I wanted to see is there any advice, any words of wisdom that you might have for someone who's either getting started with the house call practice or who might like to do feline only or feline behavior, anything like that, or like maybe even interested in just getting started with relief work?
Well, I guess those are very big questions.
Indeed.
I think, regardless of what you do, if you work with pets in some way, I think it's essential to learn the body language of your patients. And it's important whether or not you work in house call or the clinic or, pet sitting, grooming, whatever it is. And it's interesting because I do find a lot of people don't recognize the body language of stress with pets. And, if you're, especially if you're thinking about going into house call, like, yes, they are going to be probably more relaxed than they would be at the clinic, but that also means sometimes they'll be like running away from you or hiding
Yes.
from you or, and so learning to recognize early signs of stress and fear in your patients, learning how to adapt your body language to help not scare them, using treats, all that stuff I think is so important. I honestly think that there's a lot of people who've been working with pets I found in clinics for like even 30, 40 years who don't recognize when a pet is stressed. They'll be like, oh, my dog, loves being here. And I'll be like, I don't know about that. So it's like, pet isn't going to try to bite or scratch you unless it's like highest level of stress. So it's like, that means all of these other signals underneath were like missed that were happening for seconds to minutes. And so I think just really dedicating yourself to the study of body language because it'll be better for the patient because you could actually do stuff with them and then, not be traumatizing them emotionally. And it'll be like a lot safer for you. So if a pet is stressed, you could actually get injured. And I think just the safety aspect of being a house call vet, it's real. So yes, that's my tip.
Beautiful. I love that advice. I think that's wonderful. And I think as I was listening to you speak, it's obviously beneficial for the animals. It's beneficial for us and our safety. And I think even a step further than that, it's good for business too, because then our clients recognize, oh, my animal is actually happier after you've left, or, and the animal comes up to you. And when clients see that, they voluntarily come to you rather than having it be a fight. Which when you're giving treats and you're really reading their language and you're working with who this individual is and respecting their boundaries and, the animal I'm talking about, right? Like
Yeah.
clients' boundaries too, of course, but, the animal's boundaries, it changed the relationship and it makes people want to reach out to you. So
Yeah.
it sells the business too. So I think that's
Yeah.
a beautiful offering that you have there.
For sure, because I think a lot of clients get traumatized when they see their own pets totally terrified. Like for me, I get anxiety because my cat has fear of the vet. So leading up to like the vet visit, I'm like, okay, I can feel a little tachycardia, both in my cat as well as me. But they may not say anything to you. They may just like delay their visits or, only come in if they're like really, really sick. And so I think just that house call model is so important, but it doesn't mean that you get a free pass. Like you need to it's even more important for you to recognize those early signs and then just educate clients too about that.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I would say also, like, whenever I set foot in a brick and mortar clinic, I'm tachycardic too, like for a million reasons. I'm just like,
Yes.
oh, it's get me out of here ASAP. Like, oh my God. Like one time I actually went in with one of my concierge clients and she had to go in with her cat for a chest tap for, thoracentesis. And I was there the whole time being like, I can't even imagine what she's thinking, let alone the cat. But I'm like, we're here together. It's going to be okay. Here you go.
Oh, that's really great that you accompanied her. Is that part of your services that you?
Depends on the client
Yeah.
and the arrangement. But sometimes, yeah. For this
Wow, that's
client,
awesome.
I knew she wouldn't go in at all because she was so terrified. I was like, we're going to do
Mhm.
this together. I'm scared too. on it. But it depends on the situation. And I think it was better for everyone involved. Like I actually restrained the cat because I know that cat and their body language. And like,
Yeah.
was also very happy about that. Wasn't trying to like step on toes and be annoying or anything, but it just sort of flowed with how things were.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to like. I also
Service.
like from that note, like, it was actually a VEG veg practice. Like, it's hard to find me like praising corporate of any kind. I would say their open floor plan was really beautiful, and that's where we went, and that's how it was like a little bit more easy and more fluid that I could actually be involved to some extent without like stepping on toes or being annoying. They had that sort of open floor plan, but also like a little bit of open mindedness about how the client can engage. And I think that's also helpful in terms of like animal stress levels, client stress levels. So,
Yeah, for sure. I think part of their
proud of them.
model, I believe, is that the clients can be with them throughout
That's
like
right.
all the
That's right.
procedures. And so if your cat has to go in, to be hospitalized for continued care, like you could actually be with your cat. Because I know that's, I'm sure you're familiar with this too, but a lot of clients decline much needed, critical care sometimes because they just are so worried about their cat's stress levels. And so I think it is an interesting model, and I'm really glad that there's options like that for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right about that. People declining and animals not getting care because the client is so fearful and sometimes rightly so. But anyway, thank you for having this conversation with me. I enjoyed it so much. And thank you for sharing your insights and your experience. And I am so looking forward to continuing our conversations in the future.
Thanks so much. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as the House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for House Call Vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.